Welcome back to our special presentation. We just finished our exclusive primetime interview with Casey Anthony's defense attorney, Jose Baez, and now I'd like to welcome my fantastic panel and see what they think about what they heard. But I got to tell you guys that Jose Baez, when he found out there was going to be a panel, says, I want to stick around. So he's listening to what you have to say, and he may decide to comment on your comments. Joining me now, Judge Karen Mills Francis, former Miami-Dade County Court judge and host of the Judge Karen Show, prosecutor Stacey Honowitz, and former criminal investigator Steve Cardi. Let's go back to the big news, which involves Roy Kronk. Now the defense has filed a motion basically pointing the finger at him. Two of Roy Kronk's ex-wives were interviewed by the Casey Anthony defense team, as was the daughter of one of his exes. Listen to this shocking claim.
Sometimes he would, walk in while I was putting my clothes on. It's a comment that I made one time that I was tired of men. And jokingly, he said, turn to animals and I'll videotape it. Both laughed it off.
A bad joke, perhaps? Kronk's son, Brandon Sparks, claims Kronk told him in November 2008, a month before little Kaylee's body was found, that he knew where Kaylee's body was and that he expected to be on TV. Stacey Honowitz, of course, Roy Kronk's attorney is saying that this is fabrication and calling it character assassination. What do you make of these new allegations by the defense team and what you've heard today?
Well, certainly I won't profess to know all of the evidence that's gone on in the case because I'm privy to everything that everybody else in the media has been privy to. But I believe what his lawyer is saying is appropriate. It is character assassination because the bottom line is, and Jose knows this, the defense's job in this case is to find reasonable doubt or to try to cause reasonable doubt. And how do you do that? You place the blame on somebody else. And so by trying to get in these prior bad acts of this witness, that's exactly what they're trying to do, to try to show the jury it couldn't possibly have been her. We have to focus on somebody else. Ergo, there is reasonable doubt. And that's the reason why this evidence is being tried to be admitted.
Judge Karen Mills Francis, you're the judge. Do you think the judge in this case will let this evidence that the defense says it is collected involving Roy Kronk?
Well, I've been pretty hard on Mr. Baez throughout this whole process. I was a criminal defense attorney for 13 years before I was a judge. I looked at his motion. It's called a motion in limine. In Florida, a motion in limine is to exclude evidence, but his motion is asking the court to allow evidence. There is no such motion in Florida. Additionally, he's asking the court to allow evidence of what's known as prior bad acts. In Florida, it's called the Williams Rule. That's a prosecution motion. The prosecution can bring in evidence of the defendant's prior bad acts to show motive, intent, lack of mistake. I have never heard of a defense attorney filing a Williams Rule motion to show prior bad acts of a witness. But let's say for the sake of argument, it's a legitimate motion. Under the Williams Rule, he has to be able to show that there are sufficient elements in the prior bad acts that fit with the elements in this case. And I don't think he has that here.
All right, well, I got to tell you that Jose Baez is shaking his head, but he doesn't really want to respond, but he's shaking his head. So we're going to move on to, I don't think Jose Baez was going to comment on, so I save it for you guys. Remember Cindy Anthony's chilling 911 call? She talked about smelling a dead body in her daughter's car. Let's listen.
Found out my granddaughter has been taken. She has been missing for a month. Her mother finally admitted that she's been missing.
Okay, what is now? Your daughter admitted that the baby is where?
But the babysitter took her a month ago that my daughter's been looking for. There's something wrong. I found my daughter's car today, and it smells like a body in the damn car.
Cindy later took that back and blamed the smell on rotting pizza, but Casey's dad, George, also told police he smelled death in the car. Listen to that.
I got within 3 feet of my daughter's car, and the worst odor that you could possibly smell in this world. And I've smelled it. It smelled like a decomposed body.
Look at all this trash investigators took from Casey's car. Coffin flies were discovered buzzing around a bag of trash found in her trunk. Experts say the flies are drawn to decaying flesh. And prosecutors also said cadaver dogs also hit on the trunk. Investigators say they tested the air in the trunk and found signs of decomposition. Now, Steve Cardian, Jose Baez says that he's not going to reveal his defense strategy, but how difficult is it going to be to surmount all this apparent forensic evidence?
Jane, that's why law enforcement collected anything that was in that car, anything they could take from the family, and anything that they obtained from the crime scene. Note that the smell of death is an odor unlike anything, and with Cindy's training, I believe, as a nurse, and George's training as a police officer, there's no way that they're mistaken. But law enforcement will probably continue to take a look at that evidence and see what's relevant to the case and to the prosecution.
All right, do you want to ask that question, Jose? Okay. Jose would like me to ask, how many cases have any of you covered where, because I guess the defense is apparently saying that a lot of this is pseudoscience, this air sample testing that shows signs of decomposition. How about Stacey take that?
I've never tried a case or covered a case with that, but, you know, there's always new evidence that could come into court. It's something called a Fry hearing. Jose knows that that's conducted in front of the court to see if this is reasonably accepted in the scientific, if it's accepted in the scientific community. And so there is a hearing to determine whether or not this kind of scientific evidence is admissible. And just because it's the first time doesn't mean that it's not going to be admitted in this case.
Right. Everyone stay right where you are. This is becoming more and more intriguing, isn't it? Our fantastic panel of guests and experts as we go inside the Casey Anthony investigation in our Issues special presentation.